So there is just one thing that's starting to feel a little bit weird with this new Pixel, but I'll get to that by the end of this video. Let's just start with the obvious stuff. What's actually new here? So I just got some hands-on time with Google's new budget phone, the Pixel 8a, and I can confirm they're mostly sticking to the script here, keeping it simple. Last year's phone was already really good, making a few key improvements where it counts and keeping the price the same, $500. $500 isn't cheap, but it's also not a flagship. It's definitely in this nice little mid-range territory, and I feel like the Pixel has been slowly catching up their hardware to the rest of the competition in this price point. So at first glance it is, well, pretty unmistakably a Pixel with the camera bar up top. But there's a little change, there's a little bit more rounded edges. I really hope I'm not the only one getting round SpongeBob vibes from these corners, but that's definitely what I see. But that's the main design change back here. And then also around the back it's still got wireless charging, it still has the same main camera sensor as the 7a with an ultra-wide next to it. But now there's new colors and this new matte texture. So there's a black and a white that are called obsidian and porcelain, which look pretty tame. But then there's also a new green and blue called aloe and bay, and they are definitely more vibrant. The rails and the camera bar are all aluminum still IP67 rated. And then there's a slightly larger battery. But I mean, we're talking very slight here. I think it goes from 4,385 mAh to just over 4,400, but it still has wireless charging too. Then on the inside it's been bumped up to the new Tensor G3 chip from last year's flagships. So we know it's decently capable, if a little inefficient, but then it'll also start at 128 gigs of storage. But for the first time they're also going to offer a 256 gig version of the A phone as well. And then around the front an improved display. So it's the same size, still 6.1 inches, still has the middle hole punch cutout. For the selfie camera, still has an optical fingerprint reader, but it's now an actual display. So the peak brightness is 40% higher than before, and I think it's noticeable. This is one of those things that makes a big difference to everyday life and usability, just being able to see it outdoors. And it's now a POLD that gets up to 120 Hz instead of the 90 Hz like last year. Now, before you even type it, I know a lot of people are going to argue immediately this is not something that makes much of a difference to most Pixel buyers, and you're right. In fact, many of them will not notice this improvement just because smooth display is actually off again by default. So it's a 60 Hz phone out the box, and then you have to know to go into the settings and turn it on. And knowing it'll impact battery life. And then even once you do, it's not like locked at 120 Hz, it's dynamic up to 120 Hz, so I played around with this phone for a little bit. It did feel very smooth to me. It feels nice at 120 Hz, so I'm personally happy about that change. But I won't dwell on about it for too much longer. So from there you already know what a Pixel is, right? This is the mid-range/budget version of the phone with great software. Like this is the one with the really smart AI features like Call Assist and Pixel VPN and Magic Eraser Audio and all kinds of other classic Google features. It's the one with easily the best speech-to-text transcription speed and accuracy I've ever used on a phone. It's reliable enough to just write whatever you want. Emails, texts, notes, whole paragraphs as fast as you want. It's also the one that's promised 7 years of updates. OS updates, security updates, feature drop updates, and it's the one with really good cameras, mostly basically unchanged from last year. But all the Pixel 7a did was literally get the highest ELO rating on our recent blind smartphone camera test, with millions of votes up against other top-tier flagship phones. So I'd say that's a pretty good baseline. So it seems like a pretty safe bet, pretty easy bet if you are a Google or Pixel fan. But I'll just say, here are my worries with this Pixel. So first of all, this is the first A-series device that they're going to enable Gemini Nano on, and Nano is the one that can go locally on the device entirely, which is great. They're probably going to make a big deal about it at the event and talk about it more at Google I/O and all the stuff. But there's also now like this weird inconsistency with different assistants on the Pixel phone. It's not even just this phone, but now you've got the Gemini app, like showing off prominently on the home screen on these Pixel 8 as, which is the latest available and most capable voice and multimodal AI search that they have. But then the Google search page, right next to the home screen, if you tap the mic there, that's going to a totally separate but also very capable Google Voice search with Google Assistant. Google is literally now developing two different assistants side by side with overlapping but not fully congruent capabilities. It's just a little weird, a little inconsistent. And we saw it coming and we knew this would happen. But I think they'll eventually have to consolidate them all into one. I think Gemini will do everything at some point. But then, hey, I guess the other thing to keep in mind is the price. So again, this phone's gonna launch for $500 US. Mid-range phone, mid-range price, everything seems reasonable here. But let me remind you, you can still buy last year's phone of the year. Brand new Pixel 8 for $550. So this 888 right now is not that much cheaper than the 8. And if you do go with the 8, while it is a couple months old now, sure, you're also getting a phone with thinner bezels and a brighter, higher quality display. Arguably even better cameras with bigger sensors, a bigger battery, faster charging, IP68, and it's the same Tensor G3. Like, is that not a way better feeling deal? I mean, if you can find one used, that's even better. Pixel 8 was just such a good phone for that price that it makes phones, both more and less expensive, feel like worse buys. Like, I talked about how Pixel 8 Pro feels like such a hard sell because it's $250 more. But now it also kind of makes the Pixel 8a look a little too high priced. So either way, I'm sure Pixel 9 and 9 Pro when they come out will shake things up. But as of right now, Pixel 8a is just, it's a solid mid-ranger solid. It's got all the stuff you kind of already know you're getting from a Pixel. Okay, thank you for watching video. Please subscribe for visit more videos. Bye.